Welcome everyone to our special council meeting as of the 12th of August. I declare the meeting open at 4:09 p.m. The purpose of this meeting today is to ratify our 25-26 budget with a couple of additional items. We've got a full house of councillors. However, Councillor Sewell is teleconferencing in, and we've got staff, our CEO, Ben Forbes, Manager of Infrastructure and Projects, Manager of Governance and Community Services, Carly Rose, and Manager of Corporate Services, Solomon Mwale, is on sick leave. There were no public questions, and I don't believe there's any disclosures of interest. My announcements, I'd just like to say this budget process has been through 3 workshops with some healthy discussions back and forth, and we've arrived at a balanced budget with a modest 4% rate increase, which is what the ratepayer sees as its impact. But there's a lot of hard work gone into trying to secure grants, etc., for quite a substantial capital program for this coming year. So the first item of business is actually item 6.1, adoption of the 25-26 budget. I'll just read a bit of preamble. The budget outlines the Shire's operational and capital expenditure revenue streams, including rates, fees and charges, and statutory financial statements. It provides the financial framework for delivering Council's services, programs and key projects in 25-26 and reflects the Council's long-term strategic priorities. The budget has been undertaken during a period of sustained cost pressures, particularly in areas such as asset maintenance, materials, insurance and compliance. We have adopted a revised schedule of fees and charges in the June Ordinary Council meeting, which has been reflected in this budget. Waste services charges remain consistent with the previous financial year. That's pretty much it for the description. The budget is provided in attachment, what was it, 6.1, which you all have a copy of alongside you. Before we actually vote on it, I'll invite our CEO to make a few comments, if you would like to.
Sure. Thank you, President, and thank you, councillors. Obviously, it has been a quite thorough process, and I was glad that I was involved fully and with highest engagement. And we had consulted all our coordinators, responsible officers on various departments and managers, and also Megan from ActWest has assisted in the preparation of the budget. Before I actually delve into the statutory component, I would like to also comment on PRC and Willow's efforts on designing the budget, where with my guidance, she has been able to actually put some infographic in, which clearly explains where the percentages of our operational or capital costs go. There's slight typos in this document, which will be rectified before we actually publish it to the community. So one typo, just to highlight, is the in the infographic that says capital cost in roads, that's actually 95.3% and not 96.6. So that's one of the correction there. And moving on to the statutory budget, just on the cash flow looks a bit lower than the actual. It's because we haven't included the bags, which was a part of the cash flow in last financial year. Sometimes fags can be received in July, so just keeping that in mind, we didn't include that. Talking about fags for next financial year. the following year. And in page 4, the rates, I've just put a note to comment that rates is 4% increase. However, if you go to page 8, which talks about the rate in the dollar, the UV or rural farmland rate in the dollar has actually decreased from 0.004553 to 0.003895. And this decrease is due to the valuation, the annual valuation that UV Properties has. We also had a GRV valuation last year. That means next 4 years we won't have any GRV valuation. On the following page in 9, the installment charges, we haven't made any changes compared to last year. The capital program is in the A3 spreadsheet in more details, which is within the statutory sections, not a statutory document, but it's just compiled together so that it's nice and clear for reading purposes. And that then ties back to the asset disposal in page number 17. And the last comment I had was the reserves, obviously a very important thing for council. The net reserve movement has been 625,000. This includes all the interests and the other transfer. However, there may be potential reserve transfers, like we had conversations with our workshops around the entitlement, the employee entitlement reserve and sewerage charges that we have been spending from the muni, so that will be looked into in future. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Manisha. Just one quick question. The interest component of the transfer to reserves, does that reflect the Reserve Bank reduction of interest rates announced today?
Not today. Not today. Not today,
okay.
One, because these were all prepared a couple of weeks ago. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll read the motion. Recommendation 6.1, that Council, pursuant to the provision of Section 2.6.2 of the Local Government Act 1995 and Part 3 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulation 1996, adopts the budget for the Shire of Dowrein for the 25-26 financial year, which includes the following: A, statement of comprehensive income; B, statement of cash flows; C, statement of financial activity; D, detailed capital program; E, notes to and forming part of the budget. Second section, I won't read it verbatim, but it details the different categorizations of whether you're rural, residential, commercial, industrial, gross rental value, or you're under the unimproved value scheme. And as Manisha said, the rate in the dollar and the minimum rate are detailed there, being 0.077250 for gross rental valuations and 0.004735 for unimproved valuations, with a minimum rate of $920 for rural and other falling to, or the minimum rate being $270. Then as well, we have to impose sewerage rates, are detailed in that table under item 3. And item 4 talks about the due dates and options for payment. We have a 1 instalment option, 2 instalment option, and a 4 instalment option, as detailed there. Item 5, the Council, pursuant to Section 645 of the Local Government Act 1995, Regulation 67, adopts an instalment admin charge where the owner has elected to pay rates and service charges through an instalment option of $0 for each instalment after the initial instalment is paid. However, there is an interest component of 5% as described in item 6. And if one does not pay their rates by the due and payable date, there is a 5% extra charge. Item 8 details the bin charges for the removal of domestic and commercial waste, 240 litre bin, weekly collection and a fortnightly collection, $399. If you have an additional service, $199. If you happen to live in our satellite town of Minivale, you have a $240 litre weekly bin collection, but no recycling facility for a price of $199. Right, who wants to move that? Yes,
Can I please interject there? There is a bit of an amendment required. That's 3.0.003895.
Okay, so for people listening in, item 2, which details the rate in the dollar, there has been some transposition error, which will have to be corrected from this motion. So the correct value for the unimproved value is 0.003895, as Manisha mentioned earlier, actually. Yeah. Okay, I'll call for someone to move that motion, please. Councillor Metcalfe, anyone to second it? Councillor Ward, right, would either of you like to speak to that motion?
I'll speak to that, Councillor Tripp. I just think it's the most comprehensive and accurate budget that we've had in the past 3 years. I'm confident to move this motion, and I think it's balanced for the low income and pensioners, and it delivers a fairly good return on service and construction and maintenance for the town. Yeah, I think our CEO has done a brilliant job putting this together.
Thank you, Councillor Metcalfe. Councillor Ward, do you have anything further to add?
I'd like to say that Manisha and her staff have done an excellent job getting this budget together. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? No? All right, let's put it to the vote. All those are in favour, by show of hands. Councillor Sewell?
Yes.
There we go. That's 7 love. Unanimous. Carried. Right. Next item is setting material variance for monthly financial reports. I believe last year we had a 10% or 10,000, no, 10, in previous years, Council has adopted a material variance threshold of 10% or 5,000, whichever is greater. We're amending it this year to 5%. No, 10, so it hasn't changed. Yes.
No, it has. So last year it was 10% or $10,000, but we are changing it to 10% or $5,000 as a material variance, because level 4, band level 4 local government should, like, the activities are sometimes not that great that we need a variance up to the $10,000. So yeah, 5,000 seems to be more realistic if council is happy with that sort of variance.
Okay, well then the comment here might need reflecting that, as it says in previous years.
Yes, so that was $10,000. So we need to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're reducing the threshold from 10,000 to 5,000 in absolute terms, but the percentage amount remains at 5%. 10% remains at 10%. Yep. Okay, pretty straightforward once we got through all that. So recommendation 6.2, that council by absolute majority adopts the Audit and Risk Committee's recommendation to set the material balance thresholds for the 2025-26 financial year at 10% or $5,000, whichever is greater, for analysing variances between actual and budget year-to-date figures in the monthly statement of financial activity, with explanatory notes to be provided for all items exceeding these thresholds. Who would like to move that one, please? Councillor Metcalfe, seconder. Councillor Alsop. Would either of you like to speak to that motion? No, straightforward. Anyone against? No. All those in favour? Councillor Sewell?
Yes.
Yes, that's 7-0. Carried. Right, the next one is a compliance or governance issue. The Local Government Act requires that the council must review each year, as part of the compliance audit return, various questions, and one of the outcomes of that was this recommendation, and I'll actually hand it over to our CEO to clarify the exact details.
Sure. So this is a new item for our Shire, and sometimes the part of compliance audit return actually asks this question: have you got a council motion that kind of specifies that we are not duplicating any services that is offered by the government or the private entities? And this motion is named as performing executive functions, which also includes the efficient, functioning of the council, which is not duplicating others' businesses. Although it was never brought up by any auditors in our council, it is important that we tick this box as well as a part of good governance. And also keeping in mind that we have got CRC, which is partially funded by DPERD and used to be a DPERD's business before. And also we run home care, which is also funded by various Commonwealth aged care bodies. So we are just ensuring that we're not duplicating, but instead we are facilitating the services, because we're a small town and we lack those services. And in order to have those community engagement going, we are continuing these services, and all these units are performed effectively.
Thank you, Manisha. So moving straight on to the recommendation 6.3, that council by absolute majority, in accordance with section 3.18 of the Local Government Act 1995, confirms, number one, that it is satisfied that the executive function it performed in its provision of services and facilities was managed efficiently and effectively, and two, notes that in providing services and facility, Council A integrates and coordinates so far as practicable with any services and facilities provided by the Commonwealth Government, the State Government, or any other body or person, whether public or private, and B, avoids unnecessary duplication to an extent that the Council considers inappropriate, and where appropriate, facilitates, coordinates, and complements services and facilities provided by the Commonwealth Government, the State Government, or any other body or person, whether public or private. Who would like to move that one, please? Councillor Allsop, and seconded Councillor McMorrin. Anything to say about those? No? All those in favour by show of hands? Councillor Sewell?
Yes.
Yep, 7-0 again, carried. Right, the next one is to adopt our community strategic plan, which has taken place over the last 6 months with consultation with the community. We had back in February, I think it was. Yep. I must say it's a very well put together document. The graphics are actually fantastic. The photography, it just reads and looks very well, very professional looking document. As in attachment 7.1A, which you've all got a hard copy there, it was released for public consultation at the June council meeting. We did have some community feedback, 3 responses. The responses are there in the agenda. I actually queried response 3 about the typo in agricultural production figure, because I think it's probably the higher of the 2, but anyway, that's dependent on whether it's gross or net domestic product out of the Shire of Dowrein. So moving on to the recommendation, this strategic community plan is valid for how many years?
10 years.
10 years, and it has to be reviewed every
4 years.
4 years. Yep. Recommendation 7.1, that by absolute majority, in accordance with Section 556 of the Local Government Act 1995, Council 1 adopts the Strategic Community Plan 2025 to 2035 as presented in attachment 7.1A, and 2 notes the community feedback received during the consultation period and the management responses provided, and 3 requests that the Chief Executive Officer publishes the adopted plan and advises stakeholders accordingly. Pretty straightforward. Who wants to move that one? Councillor Ward, and seconded Councillor Hudson. By show of hands, all those in favour? Councillor Sewell. Thank you. That's 7-0, carried. Another governance item. This one probably came forward as a result of a recent event in town in which it brought forth a shortcoming in our delegation authorities. Perhaps our CEO would like to comment further on that.
Sure. Thank you, President. So under the Health Act, for conducting any important notices or making decisions, ideally we go through council, or although there has been delegation register and delegated authority that is adopted by the council, there has been lots of instances where we potentially have to go to council for various things. For example, Dowrein Field Days event, we are meant to issue a Form 4, which is a statutory requirement. These are again improvement processes as we go. So ideally, to issue a Form 4, I need council motion, and this is just to mitigate and minimise the administrative burden and going through lots of council motion on every steps, especially under the Health Act. If we're issuing something like a Form 4 type thing, or building related matters as well. So it is to basically officially authorise myself and Julian Goldacre, who's our casual temporary regulatory officer. He will not continue as normal as he is currently, because he's just helping us. However, it's important that we provide this sort of authority to an employee, because under the Act, we can't provide these sort of authorization to contractors. So this is purely just to, again, part of good governance practices, just to minimise the administrative burden moving forward. And by default, the CEO does it. It's always good to have it in a piece of paper and have it endorsed by the council.
Thank you. So the recommendation 7.2, that Council 1 appoints and authorises Mrs. Manisha Barthakar, the CEO, and Mr. Julian Goldacre, the EHO, each as a deputy of the Local Government of Dowrein under Section 26 of the Health Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1911. 2, prescribes the scope of authorisation to include parts 4, 5, 6, 7 and 9 of the Act and all associated regulations, local laws and orders. 3, requires regular reporting to Council on the use of the deputy authorised activities. 4, requires referral to Council for any legal or contentious matters arising or reasonable potential to arise through the authorisation activities of the appointment and authorisation activities. I'll move that one. Who wants to second it? Councillor Hudson. Again, put it to the vote. Councillor Sewell.
Yes.
That's 7-0, again, carried. Well, that brings to an end our meeting. Thanks everyone for taking the time to come out from this beautiful, not quite spring day yet, but the sun is shining and the crops are growing and thriving. We're all busy out there. Thank you once again for coming, and I declare the meeting closed at 4:34.